So there's one thing that I very often hear when I'm talking to people like you or just reading your comments on the YouTube, etc. And this is that people are wondering now in the time of AI, etc., in these modern days, right? Do you even need consulting skills anymore? Are these even required? I mean, even back in the day, you know, when I was a consultant, there was this joke that the only thing consultants are good at is to, I don't know, create slides, prepare fancy documents, but they are lacking substance. And now even more these days, of course, I think it's very fair to wonder, well, documents, this is what AI can create, right? If I use my Claude for some presentations, this is already actually very good, right? So do you even need consulting skills anymore? And I'm always a bit surprised when I hear this, because I do think that there's like a very significant misunderstanding of what you actually learn in consulting and what these skills actually are. So just want to share some thoughts on this based on my humble experience, also now being out of consulting for quite a few years. As you know, after consulting, I worked as a CTO in a German retail company. So we had around 60 stores at the peak here across the country. Then later I transitioned into a CRO role at a tech scale-up, later a COO role at this tech company. And in parallel, of course, we are building up a firm learning. And now we have a team here in Munich as well, with several also full-time employees. And maybe not all of you know that we are offering corporate trainings as well as a coaching program. By the way, if you're interested in that, there's a link for free initial consultation in the video description. But essentially in these roles, there's one thing I really noticed, also now being on the employer side of things, that it's just true that people with a consulting background have, at least on average, of course not everyone and there are exceptions, but on average certain skills that they bring to the table that, again, not all, but most other people who have not gone through this school of professional services are just lacking. And this is not to say that these people are not intelligent or these people are not very capable and also very good at doing certain things. Of course they are. But there are some area where many people outside of consulting are just lacking and consultants are just very good. And this is something that helps you a lot, both in the application process, because essentially also if I interview people and I can see that someone has a consulting background, I extend already a lot of trust to them that at least in these specific areas they are good at. And let me just go over some of these areas and why I think that these skills are so helpful for working in a professional services role. And the first is just creating high quality documents. Creating high quality documents. And this is maybe something that now surprises you, but isn't this even today even easier than ever, right? You can just use Claude, ChatGPT, whatnot, to create a high quality document. You just prompt a little bit, etc. Right? But actually, based on my view, these tools are making things even worse. And of course, you should use AI to create polished, etc. documents. But now what we are seeing in our companies is just an inflation, right, of these like super sloppy AI generated documents where someone essentially is just one-shotting with a simple prompt, some basic input, something, and then this is being circulated. Can you please review this? The quality is subpar. Often they are not well structured because also just the context, the prompting was not good. Often they just contain AI slop, etc. Right? This is now the new average, the new baseline, what the average employee is producing. And especially in these types of settings, the value of being able to create a properly written, structured, top-down document, it's just more relevant in my humble opinion than ever. And the problem here is that if you have never been gone through this training, essentially this is an unknown for you, right? So you don't even know what you don't know if you've like never been trained like this, if you've never seen this. You are not even able to realize that actually what you are creating is just not meeting the standard. This is just what I must tell you, what I just see every day. And just like, why is this the case? Right? What do I actually learn in consulting that's very hard to replicate? It's essentially this mindset that on a daily basis, whatever you write, every text document that you create, every slide that you create, you're getting challenged on like smallest subtleties in wording, in meaning, in words that you use, even stuff that you're writing in your footnote. People, your project lead, your partners are challenging you on that every single day, right? Is this actually correct? How you wrote it down? The exact detailed nuance of your wording, is that accurate? Are you writing it concise enough, precise enough, etc.? This is on the smallest level of detail that you can only imagine, the types of challenges that you will get. And then after doing this for quite some time, you will indeed get challenged on that, and you will just learn to write in a far superior way that for other people it's very hard to replicate. The second very important area is analytical abilities, right? So as a consultant, what you're doing all the time is you're being faced with a problem, and you need to think of yourself, how do I now structure, how do I now address this problem? And then what you do is essentially to break it down into components, into pieces. You're then by yourself thinking of how can I now collect data, also in very messy environments where very little data is available, but still you want to make a database analysis, right? So how do you do that? Then how do you approximate these things? And then of course, in addition to that, also the technical skills to then be able to carry out the analysis in Excel or whatever other program you're using, and then to bring to the table a data-based, fact-based perspective to a topic that otherwise people just discuss based on gut feeling. And then third, even more relevant in the current days and times of AI, what of course now is very much valued in the workplace is essentially AI readiness of employees. And if I talk about AI readiness, I do not mean like using Claude or using ChatGPT or whatnot as a chatbot, right? Of course, everybody is able to do that. But what I mean is to be able to use these systems to build AI-first processes. So to take such a system, look at a process, and then use digital workflow tools, use Claude Code, etc., to then digitalize, automate the process with the help of AI. So then including large language models inside these processes to essentially enable you to do things that in the past people needed to do manually, now with the help of AI. And if you have no idea like what this actually means or how this works, that's already a problem, and I would very much encourage you to then upskill yourself, because if you're not able to do that, you will essentially be unemployable in tech companies already today, and in most other companies within like 1 or 2 years or so. And just my humble observation, just what I witness in our organizations, is that people with a consulting background are actually able to upskill themselves much faster than other people. And of course, there are exceptions to that. But if you have gone through this professional services training, due to exactly the skills that you build, this like logical step of way of thinking, like your ability to break down problems into smaller components, just also this idea of business processes, even properly understanding what a business process is, and what this really is. I mean, probably most of you will say, yeah, I understand it, but actually, I don't think you do. Yeah, what actually a business process is, what it means to think in processes, because this is then the foundation to be able to digitalize processes, to be able then to include AI in these processes. This is of course what consultants are trained to do a lot, because many projects evolve around improving processes in companies, breaking down business processes. And so this is just another area where consulting training will help you a lot. Yeah? So just my humble observations now, also especially in these modern days of using AI in your company that I made. Super interested to hear your views on that. Feel free to leave a comment. Please like or subscribe if you took value out of this video. Thanks to all the channel members. All the best, Heinrich here, creating weekly videos on career advice, consulting, professional services, exceeding expectations in corporate environments. Looking forward to the next video.